You're listening to The Bloodshed Baddies.
Hey, I'm Lex,
And I am Sam.
and we are the Bloodshed Baddies.
Hey.
What up, what up, what up?
Missed you, baddies.
This episode is a week after our last one, but for me and Sam, it's immediately after.
So we're feeling spicy.
We may be a little loopy right now, but that's all right. It's
Hopefully
gonna
you
be
still love
great.
us.
We don't typically record two in a row because it's a lot, but we are today.
Woo.
So, Sam, in the last episode, we did favorites.
Yeah.
So this time we're going to do least favorites.
Oh, I like it.
What is your least favorite book?
It's that one book, and I kind of forget the name of it, but it's called Snow, and I think it's called Snow. I could not get through it. I tried so hard. It was a read for a book club. It had potential to be great with background story. I could not get behind the writing. What is your least favorite?
I'm trying to think. There's been some like books I know. So, bless her soul, Hilary Duff
Oh,
wrote a book and it's called Elixir and it's like a vampire kind of book. And I found it at like a used bookstore and I was like, oh, holy moly, I don't think I've ever read anything worse than that in my entire life.
sorry, Hillary. We love your music, though.
Yeah. Keep singing, no more book writing. Okay, what is your least favorite movie?
Oh, what is it called? It's Brandon and I like will pick movies on weekends, right? And it was my turn to pick, and I thought, oh, this is gonna be such a good movie. It's gonna be so interesting. And it was literally the worst movie in the whole entire world. What was it called? Um, Worst movie ever, confirmed by our brother and Pacey as well. Reality. Have you ever seen it?
I've never seen it.
Never watch it. It's based on a true story about like an FBI whistleblower. So like sounds so cool. So terrible. What is yours?
So, Dustin and I love, love, love scary movies. We watch a scary movie every Sunday. We call it Scary Movie Sunday. And we saw all this stuff about how like they did testing like on heart rate and stuff and breathing. And Skinamarink is supposed to be the scariest movie. And it's mostly shots of door frames.
No. Goodbye.
And there's very few times where I say, I wish I could have gotten that time back in my life. And that was one movie where I was like, I wish I could have gotten that time back.
Don't watch.
Okay, what's your least favorite scent?
Least favorite scent. Okay, so I know I said like I like a eucalyptus mint, but just a straight mint, I absolutely hate.
Mine is jasmine. Jasmine gives me a headache.
Hmm. Okay, I can see it.
I do not like it at all. Somebody like when I was in middle school bought me like from Bath and Body Works like a jasmine scented lotion and body spray kit, and I was like gagging.
I also hate the smell of like poop.
Yeah, if we're going bad smells like vomit's pretty bad.
We both say like some nice smells. And I'm thinking in my head, there are way worse smells than the smells we just chose.
Um, I think this one might be the same for us. What is your least favorite sports team?
Ohio State.
100%. And where is your least favorite place you've traveled?
That's a hard one. I don't ever like not like places I've traveled. Least favorite place that I've traveled. I'm gonna say we went on that family thing in Ohio, and mainly because the road trip back when I was
Oh,
sick the whole road trip back. So that was definitely my least favorite.
I apologize to anybody who's listening that was here, but we went to the middle of nowhere, Indiana for a camp thing, and the outdoors are not for me. Small towns are not for me.
I was
It's
not an
just
outdoor girl.
not for me. And that's all I
Alrighty.
have to say.
So, Lex, are you ready for my case today?
Yeah, I haven't even checked the spreadsheet, so I don't even know what you're doing.
So, kind of like your case, we have two different cases in a row because this is also a different case that was a
Ooh.
suggestion by one of my work besties, Lindsay. So, thank you, Lindsay, because my oh my Lex, are you in for a wild ride?
Ooh, okay.
So, I'm going to start with a pretty dark question, actually. Might ruin the mood for us. But have you ever thought about what you want to happen after you die, like funeral wise?
Yes.
Go.
So I do not want my funeral at a funeral home. A. I also want to be cremated, so you can really do this anywhere with my ashes. I want to be at a bar and I want everybody to wear sweatpants and sweatshirts. You are sad. Don't get all dressed up. Wear comfy clothes, drink a couple beers or whatever you want to drink. Remember me how I am, and then go spread my ashes in the ocean or somewhere else.
Cute. I like it. I personally haven't really given it much thought besides the fact that I just want to be buried next to Brandon. But I think most people know of the main options for what happens to you after death, like being embalmed and then buried in the ground or like a wall and then cremation, like you said. But have you ever heard of green burials before?
Okay, I kind of feel like I might have. Is this like, oh, I can't remember. Just tell me.
I hadn't, but green burials or natural burials are actually better for the environment than the traditional options many of us know about. So, according to the Green Burial Council, this is a quote: natural burial grounds, cemeteries, and preserves all seek to bury without impediment. That means no embalming, no liners or vaults, and using biodegradable containers, whether caskets, shrouds, or nothing at all. These cemeteries are operated by a variety of owners, municipal governments, religious groups, individuals, nonprofits, for profits, and others. Often these burial grounds are designated natural because they may not be directly affiliated with or in partnership with a land, trust, or other conservation entity, but they most likely are committed to following conservation best practices nonetheless. Natural burial cemeteries strive to provide rich experiences for families and friends and miss careful restoration and maintenance of the land and its inhabitants, both above and below ground. Basically, like a biodegradable way with no preservatives. No chemicals are used in
Okay.
embalming. Some places, if the burial place allows them, can be buried naked without clothes. I personally, even though I'm passed on, would feel exposed. And caskets are also decomposable, so very green. And actually, based on a documentary I watched, 60% of people said they would consider a green burial as an option. And it's kind of becoming like a trend in the funeral world.
Okay. Pop off.
Yes. And this is exactly what the Return to Nature funeral home in Penrose, Colorado promised. Most of their business was cremation. I believe they even said they would plant a tree in Pikes Peak National Forest for the deceased loved ones, which I would love because you know I love trees. Interesting fact about Colorado, though, I believe it is the only state that you don't need a license for embalming or to be a funeral director, which is weird.
I feel like okay, a funeral director, like maybe I don't know exactly what that job entails. Maybe you don't need it, but like to embalm someone, I feel like you probably need regulations.
Yeah, and it kind of makes Colorado a laughing stock in the funeral world. Like, oh, if you can't pass, just go to Colorado.
I did not know that there was this whole funeral world teasing people like this. That's great. This is so interesting.
Yes, and after this story, I'm about to tell you their reputation is not going up at all. Anyway, Jon and Carie Hallford opened up the Return to Nature Funeral Home in 2017, each owning 50% of the company. So Jon owned 50% and Carie owned 50%.
They're married.
Yes. And they each own, which I think is pretty cool, 50%. Jon had this idea for environmentally friendly biodegradable urns. According to their Instagram account for the funeral home, which is still up from my research, There's a quote. It says, Return to Nature Funeral Home is locally family owned and operated with generations of education and experience. We're Jon and Carie Hallford. Our family is here to serve your family 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, through rain, sleet, snow, or shine. We ensure that families who call upon us receive the highest level of affordable care, empathy, discretion, and service. Please contact us. We answer our phones 24 hours a day. Seems nice. And like their post states, their cremations were set at a pretty reasonable price, ranging from like $900 to $1,400. Carie handled most of the banking, invoicing, contracting with customers, filing of required paperwork, bookkeeping, and communications with customers.
So what did the other guy do?
While Jon also interacted with the customers at times, he more so was the one responsible for removing the bodies of the deceased, transporting the bodies of the deceased, and processing and preparing the bodies for burial or cremation.
So he did the grunt work.
Yes.
She did the front facing stuff.
Yes. On the actual Return to Nature website, which I believe is taken down, it said, Return to Nature Funeral Home is a unique family-owned and operated Colorado Springs and Penrose mortuary service. We operate with 3 generations of funeral service experience and education. Our family is here to serve your family and guide you through every step of the bereavement process. We cater to your family and provide your loved ones with the utmost professional care and discretion. Our family serving your family for over 80 years. Jon was raised in the business. He was allegedly 3rd generation funeral home director. His father owned a funeral home in Wagner, Oklahoma. Jon had his apprentice license from 2001 to 2004. Basically, with that license, you can work under a funeral director. And then he had his provisional license in Texas, but apparently it was canceled. But now he was in Colorado and didn't need a license.
Oh.
Okay, before we get into it, who are Jon and Carie?
I don't even know if I want to know. This case is scaring me.
It is a dark and morbid case. Unfortunately, I couldn't find too much, but enough to be like, what the hecky? So Jon and Carie were both married previously and met in Oklahoma and moved to Colorado after their engagement. Carie was actually Jon's 4th wife.
Whoa. How old are they?
At the time of everything, in their 40s.
Okay.
Carie had 2 children from a previous marriage, and she told her ex that Jon had a really good job opportunity, which was why they were moving. Unfortunately, this was all the background on Carie, but we have some more information about Jon's messy life. In 2006, Jon was 26 years old, and he actually was attempting to launch a political career by running for city council in Oklahoma. This did not go very well for him because this dumb little monster boy and a friend of his broke into a home where girls were having a slumber party. They held AK-47s to these young girls as a quote unquote joke and said they were going to rob them.
Okay, first off, where did they get AK-47s from?
Unbeknownst to me.
Second off, that's not a joke.
AK-47s to a young girl sleepover. What a freak.
How did they know these young girls?
I did not see that information.
That's fine.
He ends up pleading guilty to a misdemeanor, doing community service, and obviously loses his bid for election. Jon allegedly thought the charges were political against him, which like LOL.
He says, I want to be this whatever
city council
man, city council man. And they are trying to make me not be a city council man. So they charged me when I committed a fucking psycho crime
as a joke. And I'm doing quotes because this is not a joke. This is, you traumatized these girls at this sleepover. You sicko.
I need to think. I feel like I'm just not grasping what happened because it's so unreal.
It's insane. But John not only had issues with the law, he also seemed to have some money issues as well. In 2006, there was a court order that he pay back $8,000 to credit recovery. In 2009, he was ordered to pay $1,000 to an apartment complex he was evicted from. In 2010, when he graduated mortuary school, and in 2011, his family business was sued for like $5,000 and he never showed up in court, which we will see is a common theme from him. And they ruled in favor of the other party. So he has a lot of money issues. But Jon meets Carie, they get engaged, they move to Colorado, and in 2017, the Return to Nature Funeral Home was established.
This is wild.
He also was trying his hand at being a stand up comedian.
No, 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 no.
Yeah, and there's like a little clip of it in the documentary I watched. He would like travel to California and Texas and tell these terrible jokes on stage.
Do you have an example of one?
I bet you could look it up on YouTube, but I don't like this man at all, so I did not. But I imagine they're terrible. I'm just saying they're terrible.
Yeah, if your idea of a joke is bringing AK-47s to a little girl's
Yes,
sleepover, you cannot be funny.
not at all. Not at all. Also, with the Return to Nature Funeral Home, I do believe they moved locations a few times, so there were possibly money issues there. But in 2019, the Return to Nature Funeral Home, Jon and Carie, actually purchased a second location in Penrose, Colorado, which is a small Colorado town about 34 miles southwest of Colorado Springs. As far as Jon and Carrie's relationship with each other, from the outside looking in, they appeared to have it all. They went on luxurious trips. They posted these weird, ridiculous social media posts about each other, like trying to be funny and silly, but just like weird. They got cosmetic surgery. They were very much like, look at us, I feel.
Who are these people?
But also in 2019, Jon gets an alleged mistress for about a year and a half. Jon is gross. And this woman, who is unnamed and like unshown in the documentary, her father passed away from cancer in 2019. And she went to the Return to Nature Funeral Home and Jon started to message her.
No, no.
What a creeper. She even says, like, he made her feel special after her dad passed away. Like, how manipulative.
I feel very bad for her because he was prying on her during a time that you're probably one of your most vulnerable.
There's therapy.
Uh, he is, I don't even know how to, there's no words to describe.
No. They talked for a long time, and he was like, I just want to tell you everything. He also told her that Carie, his wife, would cut corners. He would say she was Satan, she was evil, she was a
She was
nightmare.
Satan?
Yep, and even also called her the devil, which same thing, but devil, Satan, evil, nightmare, commonly. Jon also told the mistress, and remember this is 2019, about that the compressors for the refrigerator units at the funeral home were going bad. And he had to fix it. He actually sent her photos of bodies scattered around the funeral home while he fixed it.
Girl, get out.
Which is so bizarre. And they were covered in white sheets because they show the pictures in the documentary, but there's just bodies all around the funeral home.
If someone sent me that picture, I'd be like, please never talk to me again.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
No, who would? He also told her he was working on a water cremation device so they could do their own cremations in-house. Because we'll find out that usually when you get cremation services, it's with another company. You don't do it in the funeral home.
Oh, I guess that would be weird to have like an incinerator in the funeral home.
Yes. But in Jon fashion, he goes to the mistress's house. They start talking, then kissing. Then one thing leads to another. Jon then rushes out and then ghosts his mistress. Yep.
I'm not surprised, and really neither should this mistress be surprised.
Although Jon didn't need a license to practice, like to be a funeral home director and embalm and things like that. The return to nature funeral home did, as a funeral home, need a license to operate.
Okay.
But in 2022, their license expired. And instead of renewing it, they were like, meh, F it, let's keep on going. So they didn't renew their license.
This, where does he get his audacity? Where did he pick it up? How do you find that much audacity?
More comes.
2022, that's so recent.
Yeah. Also, most funeral homes send bodies to another location to be cremated, like I briefly touched on. Like they service out for that. And in November 2022, the company that Hallfords went through, Wilbert Funeral Service, actually cut ties with the Hallfords.
So they're the ones who said, no, thank you, we're done.
Yes. In March 2023, Wilbert Funeral Service actually filed a civil lawsuit against Jon and Carie. And again, in true Jon fashion, they did not appear in court. And the court ruled in favor of Wilbert Funeral Service, and they won over $18,000 from the lawsuit.
Wow. This is the true blue definition of like, if I just ignore it, it'll go away. Like if
Spoiler
I just don't show
alert,
up.
it doesn't.
I know, but like that's his thought. Like,
oh, 100%.
if I just don't show up at court, it doesn't matter. If I just don't file my license, it doesn't matter. If I just don't do it, then it's like it's not happening. Sir, the world still happens.
Yep. In spring of 2023, though, this Penrose facility starts to look rough. There are a lot of weeds, and it looks like it's not being taken care of. In July 2023, the Return to Nature Funeral Home website puts a notice out saying that they do not offer cremation services anymore, but will honor the ones that they already have with them. Remember, Wilbert Funeral Service cut ties with them in 2022, and this is spring 2023.
So what have they been doing all those months?
That is a great question. There was also a really bad odor coming from the Penrose facility. People did think it could possibly be because there was a sign out front saying that taxidermy was practiced there. Maybe that's why there's this terrible smell.
Okay. Taxidermy?
Yep.
Of people?
No, I think like there was just a sign saying that, like, which I don't know if I would really want to go to that funeral home, saying that they do taxidermy there.
Okay.
Jon also told somebody, I believe like a neighbor of some sort that inquired about it, that the smell was from the engraving of wood caskets. But like people know what wood burning smells like. We've been around a fire pit before.
Okay. I don't like where this is going.
No. And even with these possible quote unquote reasons behind the smell, people still call about the weird, terrible smell coming from this Penrose facility. So they get enough complaints that DORA gets involved, which is the Department of Regulatory Agencies in Colorado.
Definitely thought that was just a woman named Dora.
You're like, oh yeah, Dora. Go off, Dora.
I was like, I don't remember Dora being in the story, but okay, get her, Dora, get him.
But Dora is basically like in charge of business licenses and regulations and things like that. So they get in contact with Jon and he says, oh, it might be the taxidermy. And he says he will meet them to show them around the facility on October 4th, 2023. In true Jon fashion, he doesn't show up.
Are you kidding me?
So Dora contacts the police and they get a warrant and come back later that night.
See what happens, Jon? Consequences to your actions.
So I don't think anyone expected to find what they did going in.
Oh no.
FBI investigators found 190 dead bodies inside this funeral home.
Inside?
Inside.
Just like thrown inside.
We'll talk about it. And
What?
honestly, after we get into it, we will see the number of victims is probably much higher.
190 dead bodies just, oh, they just opened this place to dump the bodies.
Here's a quote from a source linked. The bodies were contained in disposable body bags, wrapped in sheets and duct tape. Some bodies were partially wrapped in sheets. Other bodies were wrapped in plastic garbage bags and duct tape, or the other bodies exposed with no covering at all. Some bodies were even stuffed into plastic totes. Some bodies were lying on the ground, and some were stacked on shelves, like the Home Depot ones that you would get for your garage. Some bodies were left on gurneys. Some bodies were stacked on top of each other or just piled in rooms. So,
They
a
obviously,
complete disregard for them as humans and what you would want in someone who is doing afterlife care for your loved ones.
so they obviously have to transport these bodies there.
Yes.
They're just throwing, okay,
Yep.
throwing them in their car, dropping them off, and saying sayonara, see you later, alligator.
Get your puke bucket ready. These human bodies were also in various states of decomposition. Now, remember, the crematory cut ties with them in 2022, but some of the people had deaths listed back to 2019. 4 flippin' years they've been there. Remember what John said to his mistress. These refrigerators were inoperable for probably 4 years. So after funeral homes receive bodies, they have about 34 to 48 hours to embalm, refrigerate, and then cremate or bury. Remember, this was green burials, so they didn't embalm and obviously didn't refrigerate, which should have been a huge part of this, especially since they weren't embalming. Brace yourself. The floor was allegedly filled with a brown sludge.
No, 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 no. This is a horror movie. This is a
Literally.
horror movie.
And this would have been like fluids from the decomposing bodies. It was a complete biohazard, and one officer entered and instantly got a rash. Luckily, she was fine, but then they had to wear like those
Hazmat
suits.
suits.
Yep, hazmat suits to go in there. Flies were also buzzing around everywhere.
Oh my God, the amount of maggots in that place has to be unreal. Sickening, sickening.
Can you imagine knowing that your loved one was there?
No, no, literally no.
Assistant U.S. Attorney Tim Neff said it best at a court hearing. He said the Hallford's funeral home turned into a macabre and ghoulish house of horrors where bodies were stacked like cordwood and left to decay and decompose.
Oh my God.
Now, you may be asking yourself, like, how? And well, if you remember, most of the return to nature's business was cremation. They clearly were not cremating people like they told their families they were. On death certificates, these things are documented. And even though Wilbert Funeral Services cut ties with them in 2022, they were still listing them as the company going forward with the cremations, which is wild. It also comes out that on at least 2 occasions, but probably more, Carie and Jon also arranged for and provided the wrong body for a cemetery burial, resulting in the incorrect
How?
remains being buried in a gravesite plot while concealing this from the next of kin.
This is unbelievable.
They just don't care. They have complete disregard for humans, and it's absolutely disgusting.
How these two people, I think we say this every time there's like more than one person involved, how these two people found each other and how both of them were just like, this is okay, let's do this.
Yep.
Like, that's every decision they made for every single one of those 190 bodies and every single of those incorrect burials, every single awful thing they did Two people signed off on it. Yep, let's do this.
Yep. Speaking of that, now remember, John was in charge of transportation and dealing with the bodies, and they weren't alone in this. They did hire employees, but nothing has come to light if employees knew of this at all. Later, Carie will say she hadn't gone to the Penrose location for a year, but she quote unquote knew enough.
Yeah, you probably didn't go for a year because you knew how fucking nasty and smelly and disgusting. And why would you ever go there if it's just a place for you to dump fucking bodies?
I think you're probably 100% right. According to text messages quoted in court hearings, John repeatedly cited the difficulty of finding a way to dispose of the bodies and the threat of being exposed. In October 2020, he sent a text to Carie with four possible options. The first one, build a new crematory machine. Second one, dig a hole and use lye on the bodies.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's a good one.
The third one, burn the bodies in a hole.
That's okay. Great. Cool. Good option.
And then the fourth one, quote, or I go to prison, which is probably going to happen.
The option a long time ago should have been number one, and there shouldn't have been any other options. Yeah.
Also, this is proof they knew what they were doing and knew that it was wrong, which obviously, but like right here is proof of that.
Yeah, it's nice when people put it down in words.
Yes.
In order to show how horrible they really are.
Yes. But very sadly, the FBI has to notify the loved ones that their loved ones were not put to rest and were rotting in a funeral home. How devastating, how upsetting.
I can't even imagine getting that call.
I would literally be seething. My blood would be boiling, and I would want to beat the living poo out of them. Many thought their loved ones were cremated. Many had spread their quote unquote ashes or had their quote unquote ashes with them. In the documentary I watched, and it's so heartbreaking, a woman even had her son's ashes in a necklace around her neck. How devastating. She begins to question, whose ashes are these? Are they someone else's? Or, as many speculate, there were bags of concrete mix at the funeral home. They would allegedly grind up the mix in a machine.
Oh my God.
And would say that that was their loved one's ashes. One lady on the documentary, after finding this out, and this is so sad they even have to investigate this, but she took some of her loved one's ashes and mixed water with it. It ended up solidifying. So clearly hers wasn't ashes and was the cement mix.
These people are truly evil. He was right. She is Satan, but so is he.
Yes. Another lady on the documentary examined her ashes and found metal plates. Like if someone had surgery or something, and you know how like metal doesn't melt. Well, her son had no metal in his body. So whose ashes does she have? Unfortunately, after cremation, all DNA is lost. So these poor grieving families won't ever be able to find out.
Oh, that sucks.
It's so like, cruel.
You don't want to keep an urn of cement on your, but what if it is ashes and then you don't want to throw your loved one's ashes out?
First, like the grieving process is all over again, if not in tenfold, that you didn't get to give your loved one what they wanted post death. And then also like another woman said like she went to these like beautiful parks that her son loved and like spread his ashes at these beautiful parks. Now she has to question her whole life, were they actually her son, or if her son was found, whose ashes did she spread? Did she just spread cement all around? How disgusting.
This is wild.
Unsurprisingly, Jon and Carie pack up the family and leave everything behind. The landlord said you could tell they left in a hurry because they even left like food on the table. Jon also made sure to turn their cell phones off. Very oddly, though, and this made a lot of people mad, at the first press conference about this, I believe they were trying to protect the investigation, but the police told the public that Jon and Carie were being cooperative. But they clearly were not because they packed up everything and ran.
Again, they're just running away from their problems again for the 100th time.
By October 21st, all the bodies were removed. And in November 2023, Jon and Carie were officially arrested. They were staying at Jon Hallford's father's house in Oklahoma. So they are taken to jail there.
I don't know that I could let my son stay in the house with me after doing that.
Oh, no. In January of 2024, they are released on bond, which infuriates a lot of people, most people. After they are released, they stay in a hotel. And to make money, they do food delivery services like Grubhub or something. And can you imagine opening your door to get your food and see these two disgusting fools?
That would be insanity.
I would vomit everywhere. Other fraudulent activities come to light from this. Apparently, Jon and Carie were not paying rent at their Avenues location and owed like $97,000. It also comes out that the Hallfords also provided false information to the U.S. Small Business Administration in order to obtain relief funds during COVID, totaling $882,300. They misrepresented that Jon Hallford owed back child support and by claiming that their business was not engaged in criminal activities, which like clearly it was.
Again, the biggest freaking con people.
The couple used the money from the government and also some customer payments to buy a GMC Yukon and Infinity that together were worth over $120,000.
Stop it right now. You bought $120,000 worth of cars.
They did laser body sculpting.
No, they did not.
They went on trips to California, Florida, and Las Vegas.
Oh my God. You could have went somewhere better, but okay.
Well, do remember he was doing his stand-up in California and Las Vegas.
Oh. God.
They spent $31,000 in cryptocurrency and luxury items like stuff from Gucci and Tiffany & Co. So they are living their best lives while they are stealing money from the government and have dead, decaying bodies of loved ones, of people they reassured hiding in their funeral home. Disgusting, wild, gross, awful. Any more adjectives?
Unbelievable. This feels fake. This feels like it cannot be real life.
Anyway, Jon Hallford, 44 at this time, and Carie Hallford, 47, were indicted by a federal grand jury for defrauding their funeral home clients and for defrauding the Paycheck Protection Program, which was that COVID aid relief, and also defrauding the Economic Securities Act or the CARES Act.
Defrauding everybody and everything they came in contact with.
Yes.
Check.
They face 13 counts of wire fraud, as well as 2 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. They were also indicted on state charges of abuse of a corpse, 190.
I was going to say, I hope it's 190.
Yes, it is. Jon and Carie made their initial appearances on Monday, April 15th, 2024, before Judge Scott T. Varholick. In August, a judge overseeing the civil cases ordered the Hallfords to pay $950 million to families whose loved ones' remains were mishandled, a judgment seen as symbolic given their lack of substantial assets.
I was going to say, like, yeah, that's great. And obviously they'll never pay that. So it's just
sad.
Yeah.
November 22nd, 2024, Carie and Jon plead guilty in state court to all 190 accounts and both face up to 20 years, which is wild. It's only 20 years for 190 counts.
Yeah.
After the entry of guilty pleas, the court decided to revoke Carie Hallford's bond. An officer placed handcuffs on Carie Hallford, and many of the victims in the courtroom stood up, applauded the decision, and others started crying of happiness. They are due back in state court April 18th for sentencing. So like right after this one drops, I think.
Holy moly.
So we'll have to update you guys. According to a source, the state plea agreements in 4th District Court, if accepted, would see Jon Hallford sentenced to 20 years in prison, while Carie Hallford facing
a sentence range of 15 to 20 years in prison. On the state level, if the plea agreement is accepted, all other charges will be dismissed on the state level. As for the federal, as part of a plea agreement, Jon and Carie Hallford each pleaded guilty to one count of conspiracy to commit wire fraud. That agreement stipulated that prosecutors will not request more than 15 years imprisonment. A federal court actually rejected that portion of Jon Hallford's plea agreement for the maximum sentence. Court documents state that he has accepted a new plea deal on federal fraud charges that doesn't put a cap on sentencing. So they may give Jon a longer sentencing than the 15 years that was agreed upon, which good.
Yes.
Jon Hallford was scheduled to be sentenced in federal court on March 20th. However, for the life of me, I cannot find anything about that ruling. And I think it could be because Carie rejected this agreement, according to court documents. This means her case will head to trial. And I believe, I believe this will take place in September.
Oh.
Also, I believe starting January of 2027, you will now have to be licensed to be a funeral home director, embalmer, mortuary science practitioner, crematory operator, and or natural reductionist in the state of Colorado.
Let's go, Colorado. Thank you. Thank you.
I do want to end this on something very, very odd that could be something, but also could be nothing. I'm warning you right now, baddies. I heard on this podcast that is linked. It was very good. And then I did a little bit of research myself, but unfortunately nothing much is out there. But Jon is actually connected to a missing person in Oklahoma. Kelly Harris.
What?
Kelly Harris was 48 years old and happily married. On July 3rd, 2012, Kelly was going to Walmart to get things for her 4th of July party she was having. And then she got around $800 out and was stopping at a friend, Michael's house. Did I forget to mention Jon's full name is Jon Michael Hallford?
Oh my God.
According to a Web Sleuth post posted June 3rd, 2019, so before all of this came out, Jon was a coworker of Kelly's. And after he got fired, she quit and they were going to start a cleaning business together. The post also said Jon owed a lot of people money and did drugs, but at work he came off as a trustworthy person. Kelly was going to Jon/Michael's house to give him money for this cleaning business they were supposedly going to start. Kelly was never found. Her car was found at the Bristol Park apartment complex, and all of her windows were down. She is not suspected to have driven there. Remember, Jon's family owned a funeral business with a crematory.
Oh my God.
Could Jon be involved? I'm not saying he is, but also very interesting and something to note. And I hope police and officials look more into this lead. But this is the insane, disgusting, gross story of the Hallfords.
I am floored.
When my friend suggested it, she briefly told me about it, and I was not expecting it to be this insane, this wild, this sad. I feel so much sadness for the family of the loved ones. Like, not getting peace is just disgusting. Knowing that your family member was there maybe for 4 years, oof, I get chills.
I can't wrap my head around this case.
It's a very tough one. So if you made it this far, baddies, oof, we all need a brain break after this one.
I was going to say I'm almost looking forward to get back to murder cases next week.
No, but for real, this was very macabre. Like the one attorney general said, very gruesome. Like,
and it's so sad because the people are already dead. There's like not more we could charge them with.
Yes.
Like I've listened to this and I'm like, you should be in jail for the rest of your life. But like,
I agree. But unfortunately, you're right. There's not more to charge them with than abuse of a corpse. Hopefully they just stay behind bars for forever. Gives me icky feelings.
Well, thank you so much for listening. Please go on to whatever little app you're listening to us on right now and hit follow if you are not following. Make sure you're downloading our episodes. Downloading our episodes actually gets us the most help on our end. Make sure you're giving us nice reviews. And don't forget to go onto Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Facebook and follow us. We are at Bloodshed Baddies on all of those platforms.
If you have more suggestions like this crazy case, send that or a story to bloodshedbaddies@gmail.com. Always remember the intro music is made by our awesome cousin Vinny, and we might have something special coming up for you soon. Tell a friend, tell everybody in the world, tell your dogs, and tune in next week for Alex's episode.
Thank y'all for hanging in there for that one, and we will see you next week.
Love you.